What's wrong with Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah, I look at Donovan and I see a guy who is complaining a lot to the officials right now, and I see a guy who at times just looks uninspired. Last night I'm watching this game versus the Celtics, and I see a lot of people on Twitter asking the question of like, is Donovan here? Like, is Donovan like really working hard? Is he the same guy that he was in the first half? And right now it doesn't look like he's the same guy. The same guy is obviously still in there, but to answer the question directly, what's wrong with him? I don't know, because I don't think that he's injured. It doesn't look like he's injured or has some kind of physical ailment. It just
not
looks
any more
like,
than anybody else right now.
Yeah,
because everybody's nicked up and dinged, and they're feeling that it's March.
But yeah, that's the wear and tear of the NBA season. But it's not like he's dealing with a sprained ankle or some kind of injury that's going to hold him back. I more feel like this is on the mental side of the game. When I see a guy in Donovan Mitchell who historically hasn't complained to the officials a lot, and I start seeing him complain to the officials a lot, I start to wonder, okay, well, where's your mind at? Is your head right? Because if your head is right, you're not going to miss those 2 free throws on the technical last night, right? If your head is right, you're not going to be turning the ball over 4 or 5 times last night, which he did on his own. And their offense in totality is not nearly as good as what it should be right now, and he's part of that issue. When he is not right, their offense is not right. And so then you start compounding that with, hey, as a team, you're not shooting as well. Hey, guys like Bogdanovic are really struggling. He did make a couple shots last night, which we'll get to, but just overall, my point is that when Donovan struggles, the whole offense struggles, and there's not really when you ask the question of like, hey, what's wrong with Donovan Mitchell? There's not a straight to the point, hey, he's got a sprained ankle, so he can't run as fast, and it's hurting his jump shot. That's not the case here. This is more of a mental side of the game, trying to work through this. I don't know if he's just suffering mental fatigue, but that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and I think the thing that stands out to me about Donovan is he's such a special player. The guy is really good. So when he's not really good and you watch some of the turnovers and you watch, some of the frustrations that were very evident in crunch time last night in Boston against the Celtics, it really stands out. When he's missing critical free throws, it really stands out. When he's forcing things and turning the ball over, it really stands out. I don't know where he is, if it's headspace or what it is. Mm-hmm. Donovan Mitchell's going to figure this out, because I still maintain that he is one of the premier players in this league. But he's got to take that next step now. And the Utah Jazz are counting on Donovan Mitchell to take that next step to bring them to a championship caliber club, because they're just outside of that. They're just outside of that. And furthermore, what we saw from Bojan Bogdanovic last night, and really what we saw from Quinn Snyder, Bogdanovic is really struggling to knock down the three, to finish at the rim, to not turn the ball over, to defend. All facets of the game are difficult for Bojan Bogdanovic right now. Let's just be honest about it. So when you see Quinn Snyder put him with his back to the basket at the start of the third quarter, boy, I thought that was a real important moment, because I think it really allowed Bogdanovic to settle down. Bogey really got to feel like that confident finisher that he is. When he hit that little, fadeaway shot, he makes a great pass. It was awkward, but he makes a great pass to create an open three that winds up, splashing. That's a huge moment for them. I think this is telling you that the Jazz realize that you can't just say to Bogdanovic, stand at the three-point line and hit threes for us, because that's not going to work. It is a changing league. It's a dynamic league, and we're seeing that teams have changed the way that they are playing and competing against the Jazz. We're seeing smaller lineups have really big impacts in the paint against the Jazz. We're seeing defensively that teams are able to take the ball away and frustrate the Utah Jazz. Whether that's Bogdanovic or trapping Donovan Mitchell, whatever that is, teams are able to frustrate the Jazz. And one other thing that I would say, Jake, everybody is, and I know we talk about Rudy Gobert ad nauseum on this show. Mm-hmm. Fans are, record-setting performance. Okay, consider this. If Rudy Gobert is putting up a 20-20 night, what does that mean? Okay, well, he's having a huge impact on the game, right? But what makes it possible for Rudy Gobert to put up a 20-20 night? Well, that means there's a lot of missed shots because Rudy Gobert is not a jump shooter on any level. He is a dunk guy. That's it. He finishes around the rim. He will occasionally make a layup. Overwhelmingly, the majority of Rudy Gobert's hoops and points and production come from dunks. He gets second chance opportunities, and he's very good at it. It's a skill, it's a talent in this league. But for him to get those opportunities, they've got to be missing threes. And if they're missing threes, they're losing games. Because that's really what this team has come down to, Jake, not to belabor the point again.
Yeah.
Because this is not a secret.
Right.
If the Jazz don't make threes at a very high level, 40% plus, I would say, they're going to be in tight games that they're going to struggle in.
Right.
And they're going to find it very difficult to win games if they don't make 40 or better.
Well, and there's been a trend with the team as well. I mean, they're getting off to slower starts in these games, and they're having to battle their way back. You know, last night, early in the game, there was a point where I think they were down by like 8 or 9, and obviously it's early in the game. You know, you're not concerned about it at that point. But then I look to the end of the game, and I'm saying, man, like, boy, if the Celtics were better, if they could finish at all, the Jazz probably would have been in a bit of trouble in that game. You know, they battled them the entire game. You get to the end, Bogey makes a couple of big shots, Donovan hits the dagger, you know, and so in clutch time and crunch time, they're making shots. But we shouldn't be there. There shouldn't be crunch time. There shouldn't be pressure. There shouldn't be a big moment in that game. The Jazz are better than the Celtics. There's no question. They are a better all-around team, and they're not showing it. And that's what I think for Jazz fans is so frustrating because we know who this team can be. But this is why I always like to bring Jazz fans back to sort of the logical center of what ails the Jazz right now, which is they are a team that is built off shooting three-point shots and a lot of them. And I'm telling you, it looks awesome. It looks like the shiny new car in the first half, mainly because you have fresh legs, you've got fresh mind, you can make all these shots.
Absolutely.
And they did. They made all those shots, and they dominated the first half. But what happens is, and this is not even a criticism of the Jazz, you will see shooting percentages go down as the league calendar progresses. You will see that teams will get tired. So if you're the Jazz and your whole offense, your whole world is predicated on making three-point shots, and as you go through this marathon of an NBA season, that goes down, well, what ends up happening? Rudy's games are going to go up because they have to go up because that's his job. So that's why I say, to make my point here, that's why I've been saying, and I'm so concerned about this moving forward, in terms of championship aspirations, that, hey, you want to be a champion, but you don't want to have a great inside game. You just want to shoot a bunch of threes. And that's what concerns me.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the other questions that I'm still wondering about is, where's Ersan Ilyasova?
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen him yet. Mm-hmm. How long is that going to take before we see him and he's integrated into their offense? And the other thing that really comes to mind is the struggle to win the rebounding battle for this team right now. And I don't think it's a problem. I certainly don't think it's something that we should all be worried about. They're getting out-rebounded on a nightly basis.
I don't think it's – I agree with you. I don't think it's right to call it a problem, but it is one of the highest priorities that this team needs to have. Because last night, again, the Celtics are a team that is very reminiscent of the Clippers in the sense that they have a lot of guys who are not bigs, but who can play and who can battle with you. So last night, it's not anything special, but Marcus Smart is out there battling for rebound after rebound after rebound, and it wears you down and it tires you out. And so I guess for the Jazz, I think the biggest thing right now, if I'm Quinn Snyder, is I want to get them really high percentage looks that are not from three early in the game.
Correct.
So I want to get Donovan Mitchell, I want to get Joe Ingles, or I want to get Bojan Bogdanovic, a high percentage jump shot that they can knock down and build that confidence. Because when the Jazz are making their shots, they're unbeatable. That, like, when they're shooting the ball at like 45% from three, it's over. But that problem is that's just not realistic for any NBA team over the long term. So I would hope that Quinn Snyder understands that this team's been getting off to slow starts and digging themselves into a hole.
Well, I think the way he changed his usage of, you know, Rudy Gobert and Bogdanovic early in games, getting them out quickly, I think tells you he's definitely thinking that. I think you're seeing Jordan Clarkson coming in earlier and earlier. And I would more say I'd love to see them get drive and kick basketball going much earlier.
But like Donovan, going into the half, I think he was shooting free throws with like a minute and 30 seconds left before the half. He had 7 points. I mean, that's not gonna work if you want to win games. Like Donovan Mitchell's got to be approaching 15, 16, 17 points at the half for them to be winning.
But, like, he's a guy that I trust at the free throw line. What was he, 6 of 7 last night? Like, I mean, I trust him.
Yeah, of course.
The problem is when he gets fouled, it's not a ticky-tack foul. Mm-hmm. And I think this is part of the narrative and the conversation around Donovan Mitchell right now, which is he's getting beat down a little bit. Mm-hmm. Teams are being very physical with him. And he's not Rudy Gobert, who's like 9 feet tall and 5 feet wide, right? Who's got a body to bang. Like, that's not who Donovan Mitchell is. Now, he's stout, he's thick, he's in incredible shape, obviously, Donovan is. But he's a guy that takes a physical beating on a nightly basis. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you fix that. I don't know that you need to fix that. Because, again, he's solid at the free throw line. They're a 90-something% shooting. I think they shot like 92% from the line last night. He was 6 of 7.
What's really funny about that conversation is that I remember on our show when we were on the radio in Phoenix, earlier in Book's career in Phoenix, we had a conversation about how Book was becoming a player that was injury prone. And we get into this conversation and we start to understand that, hey, maybe he's not injury prone. Maybe it's that the way he's playing the game is forcing him to take more injury. And that's because he's trying to play a really physical brand of basketball. And now with Book's maturation as a player, what are we seeing? He is a much more polished and skilled player.
Savvy.
And he doesn't have to take the beating. He'll hand it out when he wants to, but he's not taking it on a nightly basis. And I think that is partially the next step for Donovan. How do I score and impact the game without having to take the beating that I take right now?
Yeah, and I think, Brandon Whitesides makes a really good point on YouTube. He says the only thing I thought was weird was Mitchell getting stuck a bunch with his handles at the end of the game. Marcus Smart's an elite defender.
Yes, he is.
There is no question about that. Marcus Smart's an elite defender. He's very difficult to compete against. So I think there's a lot in this idea that, hey, Donovan had his hands full with Marcus Smart. And I think Marcus Smart won the mental side of that battle.
And by the way, the play that he's talking about, I know exactly what you're talking about at the end of the game there. Jaylen Brown came and doubled as well.
Yes.
So, like Marcus Smart played great individual one-on-one defense. And by the way, I would just say the difference between Smart and a lot of other guys is Smart is really strong for his size. So you're not going to be able to bully him, and that is what knocks Donovan off the ball.
Well, and Brandon also said they also doubled him and he didn't take a timeout.
There you go.
When Mitchell and Bogey get going, the Jazz will be elite again. Right now, those two are struggling. Yeah. I don't know that there's a get going for Bogdanovic. He needs to make more threes.
Right.
But you can see that Quinn is trying to find a way to change his usage, which is what makes Quinn Snyder such an intelligent coach, because I think a lot of coaches would be fine to let Bogey stand out there and keep missing threes. Quinn Snyder's not that guy. Mm-hmm. And I think you need a heck of a lot more back to the basket basketball with this team in the half court.
Yes.
I think it makes them a more dangerous, lethal team, because what did we see on that spin to the middle of the paint from Bogdanovic last night? He kicked it out and he got a teammate an open three.
Yeah.
And Royce O'Neal is a guy that has to have good looks to make consistent shots. Mm-hmm. He's not a special offensive player. Royce is just not. He can really shoot it. I look at Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson's a guy who doesn't need a lot of space to get a three off. Mm-hmm. Guys like Royce O'Neal, anytime Jingles is in the corner and you give him a clean look, he's going to knock down 80% of that.
The thing that I think is the real core issue for the Jazz right now, though, on the offensive end when they're trying to score, and I'm seeing this come out now. We've talked about this a little bit, but it's becoming a bigger issue now for the Jazz on the offensive end. Defenses are pushing out early in the possession to force the Jazz to start running the pick and roll around the logo instead of around the top of the three-point line. So, like, most NBA logos are pretty spread out, right? So, like, most NBA logos they're not smaller anymore. They're really spread out. And so the end of that logo is typically only 2 or 3 feet behind the three-point line. So what you're seeing, and if you really pay attention to the defense, what you're going to see is that teams are pushing out more. So they're going to score, they're going to come back, but instead of playing defense behind the three-point line, they're going to push out, and they're going to force the Jazz to start the pick and roll process on the logo instead of at the top of the three-point line. And what that ends up doing is it ends up forcing Donovan Mitchell to make his kick pass at the elbow instead of the block, which then forces that shooter and the defensive player on that shooter in the corner has more time to get back. And the bigger thing here is that pushing out like that makes Rudy's path to the basket to clean up much longer. That extra stride or 2 strides is all the difference in the world between the defense getting the rebound and Rudy Gobert getting the rebound. And so I think for Quinn and the Jazz's offense, they got to figure out, okay, how are we going to deal with this? And I think the solution is more ball movement. I'm seeing way too much, hey, throw it to one side, back to the other side, back to Donovan with 10 seconds left in the clock, and we're just going to run pick and roll, and then Donovan's going to try and get fouled. That's essentially their offense right now. They've got to get back to moving the ball around faster and moving the defense side to side.
Well, and not to get too far into the mud on that, but I'm moving the ball for a 3. You need to rotate the ball with the idea that you're looking for a 3. You're a lot more willing to do that when guys are making those threes than you are when they're not. Mm-hmm. So, a couple other notes out of the NBA last night. I think we saw something fascinating happen in Portland when you had the Blazers down by 179 points in that game with a minute to go, and they come back and win it. Well, that's probably not real accurate, but they were down 12, 15 points in this game to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And New Orleans just stopped executing. And I had an old basketball coach back in my day. Good old Ron Sapocek from Round Lake High School.
Sapocek!
Sappy, the Round Lake Panthers, who always used to say that you can't play for me if you can't catch the ball. And we saw a situation last night where Lonzo Ball makes a perfectly good inbound pass that doesn't get caught. Eric Bledsoe is in the wrong place at the wrong time, multiple times.
Yeah.
They turn the ball over. Bledsoe goes down and fouls Dame on a 3-point shot, and Portland winds up coming all the way back and winning this game.
Yeah.
And the reason I find this so interesting is because, speaking of usage, the way that Van Gundy is using Zion Williamson right now, I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
He's put him on the ball, point Zion, point thickness. He's put Zion on the basketball.
Right.
He's giving him the ball with his back to the basket. Zion's becoming much more than just a cut, pass it to him, let him dunk it guy. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with a jump shot because he doesn't have one.
Right.
I think we're seeing a very interesting moment in time for the New Orleans Pelicans because there's a lot of people who think come a week from tomorrow they're going to have made a significant trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the core of that team is still so young, and that's the hard part about this conversation. I mean, just in the last probably month, like the last 2 weeks leading into the All-Star break, and now this time, so the last month or so, like Zion's game has come along a little bit. He's starting to understand what he needs to do to score.
Yeah.
And so he's got more value now. But I think whether you're the Jazz or the Pels or, the Blazers, the question you have to be asking, I would think, is where are we now and where do we need to go to win a championship? What do we have to do to get to the NBA Finals and compete for it all? And I look at the Pelicans and I say, yes, you are a run and gun team. Yes, you get high percentage look after high percentage look, but you don't know how to win games. And so 2 years from now, if you keep this core together, will you know how to win games? Will you know how to finish? Is Brandon Ingram a guy that you can give the ball to with 2 minutes left and he can go and hit that big elbow jumper? I don't know.
I have a feeling that this team's not going to be together a week from now.
And that's what I think, too. I think there's way too much value not to make the deals.
I think they have to make trades.
Yeah.
Because I think at some point, you have to get and look, I like B.I. He's a fantastic player, Brandon Ingram. He's a fantastic player. I wish the Lakers hadn't let him go. But he is never going to be an alpha male. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think that Zion Williamson, at least not to this point, has shown the ability to be that alpha. Now, he's really young,
Yeah.
Their whole team is really young.
Uh-huh.
They need something different. I don't know what that is, but I think you're a little too guard heavy on that team because Brandon Ingram plays like a guard, not a 3 or a 4.
Right.
I think he plays very much like a 2. And I think it's interesting. What would the Pelicans be like, if they had a badass point guard? If they had one of the elite point guards or an alpha male who can shoot like Julius Randle to pair with Zion Williams, I just wonder, how do you change that dynamic?
Yeah, it's trading people. That's how you change it.
Because I don't think you can sit and stay with them. And speaking of Julius Randle, I thought the Knicks Sixers game last night was unbelievable. That game was as entertaining as any Eastern Conference game that I've seen maybe this year. Mm-hmm. The Sixers won it 99-96, and Tobias Harris, just continues.
Balling.
The guy is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. And he's got that mentality you're talking about.
Well, yeah, but when they need it, when you look at Joel Embiid not playing in this game, they needed somebody.
Yeah,
and they got him.
And I think that killer mentality is a commodity around the league. And this is no shade to the Jazz, but I look at that Jazz Sixers game. What he did on the block at the end of the game, just essentially demoralizing the Jazz by backing Bogey down and taking him to the cup, then backing him down and spinning for the off-foot fade to the baseline, which is a ridiculously difficult shot, and
you cannot defend.
I just think that mentality is in that generation of player, and it's not yet been established in the new era. I look at Ja Morant, and I say to myself, dude, I need more from you. I need you to be more of a killer than you are right now. I look at Zion, I need more from you. I look at LaMelo, and I say, you're so young, but at some point, I'm going to need more of a killer mentality from you.
Zach LaVine.
Zach LaVine, exactly. We've seen that with Zach LaVine now, right? Zach LaVine's starting to become that guy who's a killer.
That's another guy that if I'm the Bulls, and look, I grew up fascinated by Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be a Bulls fan. I think they got to trade Zach LaVine. I think you are not a very good basketball team.
Think about this.
You're below 500. You're 4 games under at home.
Yeah. Think about this. What if you replace Zach LaVine? What if you replace Bogey with Zach LaVine? What's that do to your team?
Oh, my God.
Completely changes everything, right? 100% changes everything. Now you've got a guy in the wing who doesn't just stand in the corner and shoot or try his best on defense. Zach LaVine is a guy that when Donovan's taking that beating, give the ball to Zach and he can go and get it done. And so that's why I'm saying last week we talked a lot about, hey, are the Jazz going to make a trade? Are they going to do something to really just put them over the top, solidify yourself 100%? That's a guy that I would go and try and get, and I'd give up draft picks to get him if I'm the Jazz, because right now...
Zach can play, man.
Dude, right now, think about this. If you're a Jazz fan, I want you to think about this right now if you're listening. Right now, you're as close to the NBA Finals as you have been in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And you need to sell out to make it happen this year. The Lakers are down. The Clippers are not good. You don't have a strong Eastern Conference. It's really you and Brooklyn, and that's going to be the finals.
That's how you get. Can you imagine if the Jazz went and made a foundational trade like that?
Yeah.
Well, how much energy is that putting in the?
Oh my God, dude.
I mean,
dude,
Zach LaVine last night, 40 points, 7 of 12 from 3. 4 boards, 2 dimes, a steal, only in 1 turnover.
How many free throws?
3.
So he's scoring 40 with only 3 free throws.
Yes, 7 of 12 from 3.
I mean,
the guy has turned himself into a legitimate shooter.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I'm not going to say that he's on Paul George's level, but that's a Paul George-esque stat line where you're highly efficient from 3. You're highly efficient from the field, and you're not getting fouled a lot. And by the way, again, I'd just like to point out to my Devin Booker point, that is a very Devin Booker game as well. You're going to make all your strides by shooting the basketball, not by going to the bucket.
I want to say the Suns are legit contenders.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a player away. I think they're right where the Jazz are. They're
a bracket buster this year.
They are.
They're a team that's going to ruin someone's season. That's what they're going to do. They're going to ruin someone's season, and then they're going to get bumped out of the postseason.
Did you see LeBron last night, by the way?
Yeah.
Man. That that reverse layup. Mm-hmm. Jeez. I mean, and I know that's the highlight everybody's looking at, but he's another guy. 25 points, 12 dimes, 12 boards.
Yeah. That's what he needs to be.
How do you reinvent yourself at 73 years old?
Well, here's the thing.
How is he doing this?
Well, I think how he's doing it is, and this is what I've been waiting to see, and again, we brought this up. Has LeBron been chilling in second gear when he's got fifth gear available to him? Has he been just taking it easy because he knows that AD is going to be out for a while, and he knows that they don't need to be the number 1 seed this year. They just need to be a top 4 seed.
By the way, my guy Montrez did it again.
He does it every night, dude.
He is easily the best free agent signing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not close. 25 points, 6 dimes, 4 boards.
Exactly what you want from him.
Not close.
Jordan Clarkson, where you at, buddy? Need you. I need that kind of production. I need that.
Well, Jordan gives that to you.
Not consistently. He
scores the ball
He scores for them, yes, but he's not.
A lot.
Dude, he's not 25, 30 a night. There are some nights where he's 25 or 30. A lot of nights he's 12 to 15. Like, a lot of nights he's a teens guy instead of a mid to high 20s guy.
Yeah. By the way, I think the marquee game of the night is Clippers and Mavs tonight. That's a late game on ESPN. It's going to be a good one. I'm also looking forward to Charlotte-Denver.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be an interesting. Now it's in Denver.
I'm telling you, if you're not watching Denver, pay attention. Pay attention.
Yeah, we'll see. They need to put a long streak together, and I think they'll be better. All right, make sure you smash that subscribe button. The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. Just Google search The Monty Show. Will come up for you.